Hey everyone, it's Joe Glines, and let me get the mic a little closer here. This is week 7 of what I automated this week, and this week I think it's going to be kind of short as far as the video goes. I did a lot of work because I had a lot to do, but I'm just going to share some stuff that I think that'll make the most sense. So first thing on my list, let me find my list, is I had some data on, I was on vehicles, doesn't matter, but I had the lat and longe, and I didn't have the city and state in zip. And of course I could have used like the Google API for doing this, but that would have cost me money. I have a program called MattPoint. Let me bring it over just so you can see at the beginning here. I have an instance running just so it's going to connect with it because it takes a while to start up. It's a big program. It does GIS stuff. And so in this example here, I read in the data file. Let me hit my hotkey here. It's going to show it in a message box. So this is the data row by row. In here you can see, looks like maybe here's the latitude and here's the longitude. So let me comment that out. And then it's going to take that, creates an object, activates it, and then basically I loop over. This again is just my for loop where I line break on the, I stir split on the tick mark to break it over each line. And then I go through, if it's a header row, I think, oh, go ahead and skip. Oh yeah, we're going to write the header to the data file, then skip it. And then if the absolute value of this one is above 0, because just to make sure it actually had a lat, I think, or a longe, and that's above 0, then go ahead and do a reverse geocode, which this is a function I wrote, pass it the latitude and longitude. So that's going to come down here, and then it jumps into this object. And let's see if we can get rid of this. And it's going to go through, and what it basically does in MattPoint, so of course the problem is your longitude may or may not be on a given street. It's trying to do a full reverse geocode. But what I realized was, hey, you know what? It was like 4 million points of interest in map pointers. It was some huge number. And if I just took the closest nearby point of interest, it's probably going to be fine, especially for the city, state, and zip, right? So it goes through and tries the first one. If the first one doesn't have, because sometimes they don't have an address, it's rare, but some of them don't, then it'll keep iterating over it and incrementing out at a half-mile distance until it finds one that has the info, and then it comes back up here, and then we're going to see it here in a message box right here. It's going to show the city, state, zip, and distance of it, and then it ends up writing it to a data file. So let me go ahead and launch this, and we'll see. So it just did one apparently in here somewhere, and then one of these little dots, right? One of these, I'm not sure which one. It's probably the one like right here, right in the center. It is the one that used, and it was in Dallas, Texas. It's actually pretty close to my house. It's the DFW airport. Let's go to the next one and see. I think the map. Oh, still the same one. There might be a bunch in a row. Yeah, I should have looked at the data. Oh, there we go. So now it's still Dallas, but we've moved the location. So anyway, it goes through the entire list, writes it all for me. Let me exit out of this thing and close this. So that was one I did where now I have a freeway, and it's pretty darn fast overall. I mean, I wouldn't want to do 1 million records, but considering it's free, right? I'm more than happy with that. The second one is, as I mentioned last week, we sent out a lot of text. So this is the list we sent to last week. It was 10,488 contacts. And actually, so I didn't include that one. I had one other one. The text magic, by the way, it has an API, and Maestrith and I actually have a program for doing this. Is their program that you can run on your computer for sending texts, and for most purposes it works. It fits the bill. It runs fine, don't get me wrong, but we wanted to be able to text people at specific times, and you couldn't do a mail merge on a time slot to decide when to send it. So Maestrith and I have a program that'll allow you to basically do like alert meetings, alerts for a person's appointment or something. Anyway, so for this purpose, I just need to get this done. So I used their tool. What was interesting though is after you look at the sents, there's a lot of people. There's two things. There's a lot of people who, well, I shouldn't say a lot. Most people, when they didn't want to receive more text, they just replied stop, which is fine, and it unsubscribes them. So inside TextMagick, it has a built-in functionality. I think anything does, right? If you reply stop to a text, it'll stop sending things to you. Some people would write something like, please stop texting me, or please do not text me, or F off, and more. It's kind of funny. But so what I wanted to do was to programmatically, because I want to remove them from my main list, not just like this list. And so Maestrieth and I, we went in and he did the work, but just because I was in a hurry again, and for him, APIs are super fast to deal with. I can figure it out, but it takes a while. But we got a list of all the unsubscribes, which are the people who actually said remove or maybe stop or remove. I think if you type that in a text reply, it'll stop sending to you. But then I'm going to go through and get what they wrote. I'm trying to see if I guess I don't have it open. And, oh, actually, this is here in the background. So see, some people wrote stop, do not send any more message number. So I'm going to go through that and write a coding schema to basically flag all those. And then we're going to unsubscribe them both in TextMagick and in my master list. And so I didn't want to do that one at a time, right? And I want to have a program that will write rules to take care of this. So that was one thing with TextMagick. Yeah. So anyway, that's another one I'm working on, which I was just starting to work on it. So I'm iterating over it. I open up that file and I let it go over line breaks, and then I realized sometimes I want when the text is exactly something, exactly, like the word stop, right? It doesn't, because I don't want it to unsubscribe people if it said, what if they replied back, I can't wait to where I can stop and go see your property, right? They clearly don't want to stop getting text from us. However, if we just said if stop was anywhere in that text, we would unsubscribe them, and that'd be bad. So if the message was entirely just stop, or maybe unsubscribe, or maybe some swear word, then maybe we want to unsubscribe them. Then I'm going to do another one where it says, hey, if these words are present, like something in stop, like a swear word in stop or unsubscribe or something, right? And then there'll be one for words present in any order. So I'm going to write some functions that tackle those, and then I'll incorporate that into the loop up above. So that's what I'm doing with that one. The next one, we were doing emails as well, and so let's see, this is my script, which I demonstrated, by the way, in our webinar on Outlook. And this was actually where I integrated it with Excel, and so I had my list of email addresses and first names and whatnot. This is actually old, so I had their email and first name. I didn't have these, but it doesn't matter, right? And I had them in Excel, and allowed me to go into Excel, and I could highlight the rows I wanted, and then I could hit my hotkey, and it would write an email to those people. What I didn't know, so I did this, I think, for roughly, I forget, maybe it was 5,000. That was more because we ended up sending to them again. But let's say it was around 10,000 people. And so part of that, actually, I had it go through Mailgun. I used their API. And then part of it, this is part of our split sample test to see which one works better. I sent through our mail servers. Well, what I didn't realize, because I tested this on mine with Outlook a couple times, everything's working great. And then I sent the roughly, let's say it was 5,000. And a few, like several minutes later, after everything was deployed, I was getting these responses that said, hey, you have exceeded your maximum of 500 per hour, and blah, blah, blah. So the vast majority of my emails that I had put in Outlook and actually ran through Outlook didn't actually deploy. It said there was a failure on our mail server. It has a restriction of the max of 500 emails per hour. And of course, then I had to figure out which ones didn't go. So I also went through and said, okay, let me get all those replies. And this was basically it. I put them all into a folder. So this is my default folder, and then I created a subfolder called Automate. And then I moved all of them, everything I had from like replies, because some of them were out of office and this and that, and I didn't want to wade through which one's which. And even then, I wonder if I can find them. Let me see if I can find them. Maybe they're still in the automate folder. Because it's much easier, I think, if you see it. But what is I'm trying to figure out which is my default. Oh, here we go. Okay, let me bring this over. So this is the message where it replied back. I notice it's in the body, right? And also the email address is in the body. It's not in the from or anything. So grabbing that would have been a pain in the butt going across. It looked like I think I had over 1,800 somewhere. I don't know, 1,806 unopened. I'm sure there's more than that. So I wrote a loop. That's what this is it loops over that automate folder. At first it gets a pointer to it, and then it, I guess I just want to see how many were actually there. This would tell me how many are there. And then it'll loop over that count, and if mail delivery failed was in the subject line, so now I'm filtering on it, and then I just say, okay, make that email for now, make that email the thing I'm focused on. And then this was a stir split I basically did and said, look, if it says failed and then 2 line breaks, get everything to the right. And then I nested that inside another stir split where I grabbed just the 1 line. So basically I looked for this part, failed, and then 2 line breaks. And then I said, okay, give me all of this. And then I took that and said, okay, give me everything up to the first line break. So the first one got it down to what I have selected. Actually, I shouldn't say that because it split it on the failed blah, blah. So it actually, the first one got me down to this, including the email address. And then I just said, okay, let's break this on a line break on a new line, which isolated the email address. And sure enough, when I looked at it, it actually worked. So actually, you know what? I should be able to run this without a problem here. Debug window, it'll dump into emails. Yeah, let me go ahead and run that. So I'll kick it off and hit my hotkey. Hopefully it's looping over them right now. Double click my. Yeah, it's working. I didn't remember this taking a while, but hey, it's 1,800 emails, right? It's got to filter on them and go through them and do those not regex, but stir split on them. No hurry. This would have been very painful to have manually handled. Is it still running? So this is how I check. I double click on the icon, and then I just look to see, yeah, it's still running, right? I just hit F5 to refresh it. But as long as this is still plugging along and changing, it's in different status, of it. I should have put a line or a break on the index just to stop it after the first 10 or so. Okay, so there it went through all of them, and here are 1,560 email addresses out of those 1,800. Right, so these are the ones I had to resend to. Let's see. So that was I did a lot of other quote unquote work. I wrote tools for them, but they're very specific and kind of niche, and so I'm just not going to share them. But anyway, hope that helps. Give you a thought. I still have a ton more to do with the new plans we have for what we're going to be doing in our business. We're going to be doing voice broadcasts as well, and they have an API, so I'm probably hopefully this week, I'll get around to that. The other thing is all the stuff I've been doing with those text phone numbers. We're going to be, what was I saying? Oh, I need to dump it into a database, and so I'm going to have Maestro help me with that, of taking it instead of from a spreadsheet and then having all these different versions of the list. Let me see if I have that folder open because it's getting creative. So this isn't the right folder. this is the right folder. So I had one initial list, and then we were just in a hurry, and so I took that list and was parsing it and breaking it up into separate different files and doing the stuff, which, because I had to get it done, it was fine. But what I want to do is to, now that we have more time, take that initial list, load it into a database, and then go through and use the other files like the cleaned up email and the cleaned up texting and stuff. Oh, that was one I didn't mention. There's a tool called 24/7. Actually, it's not the tool; it's a website. But let me go to it anyway. Carrier 24/7. This tool, you can do a lot of things. One of them is we took a list of all the phone numbers we had, because we had in one market, let's say it was 30,000 phone numbers, but we figured some of those would not be a cell line, and so they wouldn't receive text. And so when we send them a text, we're just wasting money. So this service goes through and says, hey, it'll go through and tell you who the carrier is, and basically returns a flag that says whether it's a wireless provider or not. And so that allowed us to take that list and cut out roughly a third of the phone numbers, because even though wireless lines aren't that common, I think we had a lot of office numbers and stuff. So that it does two things. One is it saves us 4 cents for every text we were going to send, and when you're talking about 30,000 phone numbers, that adds up to be some money. But the second thing is we were basing our metrics off of it, and then of course we also would have been sending to it over and over the next couple of years, right? Not right away, but we'll be, every time we have a property, we're going to send to that list, and so we would have still been blasting to people who they never even get it, right? So it's going to save us not just the first time we actually made money the first time we did it, but going forward it's really going to save us a lot of money. But the second thing is for our metrics, right? Because we want to have a better idea of what's working and what isn't, and when you have a much bigger list and you don't know which ones are working, which one isn't, if you have a 30-year list that's crap, it'll never perform because they're not getting it. It makes it harder to detect what works and what doesn't work. And so this way, by cleaning up our list up front, then it'll be easier to track metrics, because it's all about metrics, right? You need to be able to test and see what works and what doesn't work to improve over time. So anyway, that was another one that we worked. They have an API. They also have a file upload, but they have an API that you can plug along. The other, actually, so while I'm here, the other one you can, which I might do this. We might try it. So cell phone carriers have phone numbers, an email address associated to a phone number. And really, here I could have taken that full list and said append the email address for a given phone number, but really once you have it for a given carrier, the pattern stays the same. So I wouldn't have taken my 30,000 list and submitted it. You can submit, you can take, look at the, I'd say take a couple hundred at random, and then look to see, as long as you have the big carriers, right, then you can, you run a couple for those and see that pattern, and then you don't have to, you can just apply that pattern, it'll be like the cell phone number then at AT&T.com or something simple like that, right? The other one I've used is you can do a phone append, so you can, I think that's the one where you can append data to a given phone number. They have that. They also have like an email append as well, I believe, or a profile of people. Whoa, hey, where'd you go? Looks like they had do not call list, which in our voice message, they have that as well. So we won't have to, but I'll look at the pricing and see if it's cheaper, because these guys' prices are very reasonable from what I've compared to other things. Actually, I don't know what this is. But anyway, it's a pretty decent. The only thing I don't like is they have a $12 monthly fee, which you don't have to keep it going month to month, but it's just like, why? I don't understand why they do that. It just tacks on $12 every time, because I don't use it every month. Oh, this is the email to SMS. Okay, because see this. Once we have an email address, of course, we're paying in Text Magic, which is a great tool, but it's 4 cents per text, and that adds up. Hey, we can do emails for virtually free, right? Or with Mailgun, it's super cheap. And so we might test it, but again, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. All right. Anyway, hope that helped. Hope you guys have a great had a great week and have a great weekend. Cheers.